Okay, so how you are going to install Playwright? So when I say if you are installing a Playwright, right, it means, as I said, you right, we can install Playwright in two ways. One way is you can use your VS Code extension. Okay, your VS Code extension. And second one is you can also install Playwright using your VS Code terminal or your command prompt, where you need to learn npm init and you need to run Playwright at the rate of latest. So this command will help you to install Playwright on your machine. Okay, and then right, we have started. So once I install Playwright, right, you will get some default files and folders. You will get some default files and folders. Okay, so I have explained you that what each and every file is pointing to and why you get that file as part of your Playwright project. Okay, so this is what that we have seen in our last class. Now in today's session, right, what we are going to see here is we will see how to create a test. How to create a test in Playwright. Okay, how do we create a test in Playwright? And how do we run a test? And how to run a test in headed mode? How to run a test using some specific browser. Using some specific browser. Okay, and then we will also see how you can run. Okay, how you can run it on a specific browser. And then we will also see whenever we are going to create a test, you need to understand what does that test block contains. What does that test block contains? Okay, what does the test block contains? So we will see in detail that what is the test that you create and what does it contain. So for that, right, again, what I am saying here is I am simply saying this is the Playwright 2. So majorly, right, instead of theoretically typing it, right, we'll do completely practical. So you will get some more knowledge on it. Okay, so let me just go ahead and let me just close all the screens which I have already opened. Okay, and let me just open VS Code. Okay, when you type VS Code, right, you will actually get VS Code. When you click on enter, right, it actually opens VS Code. Now, as I said, you right, this is your editor, right, VS Code. Now, if you see, right, in VS Code, right, you have mainly three parts. So let me just open one blank project. So I'm going to File. I will have an option called Open Folder. If you click on Open Folder, you can create any folder in your respective location. Let us say I'm saying this is nothing but Playwright 3. I'm simply saying it as or else let me just name it as Project 3. And I'm trying to open this particular folder in my VS Code. So you need to select it, and if you click on Open, right, the folder will be opened in your VS Code. Now, if you see right under the VS Code, right, you have three. Your VS Code, right, is completely divided into 5 sections. So if you see right, and whenever you open VS Code, right, you will see at the top like File, Edit, Selection, View, Go, Run. This is nothing but what we actually call it as menu bar. Menu bar. And if you see right, the left hand side, you will see some icons, which are like if you want to go to your file explorer, if you want to search something, if you want to connect to your source code repository, if I want to run or debug, or if I want to go to and browse some extension and install that on your VS Code. So we see some options, on the left hand side, which actually, this is nothing but your actual file explorer, which actually shows you your project hierarchy. But anyway, now if you see right at the top right, you have menu bar. On the left hand side right, you have some icons through which you can navigate to those screens. And this is called as your explorer, where you can see your project hierarchy. Okay, and this is nothing but what we are actually calling it as an this is nothing but what we actually call it as your editor. Means, for example, if I create some file here, sample.js, if you see, right, that file, right, when you click on that particular file, you're able to see what that file contains. So this is nothing but your actual editor where you actually write your code. Where you actually write your code. And this part will show you the hierarchy of your project. It means what files, what folders that you have under to your project. And then, right, if you click on this, you will also get a terminal. And it is like whenever you want to run something, right, you need to run your commands and you will see your output under to this particular terminal. So if you see VS Code, right, VS Code contains menu bar, the side icon bar from where you can navigate to that respective module. And you will see your Explorer where you can see your project hierarchy. And this part is nothing but your editor. Whatever this part, right, whatever you're seeing here, right, that is nothing but your editor. Okay, that is nothing but your editor. And then this part is nothing but your terminal. This part is nothing but your terminal. Now, the first step, what I am doing here is I am deleting this particular file. I don't need this particular file. Now, if I need to use the Playwright under to this particular project 3, I need to install Playwright. So in last session, right, I had shown you the 2 ways, but from now, right, we will use the shortcut. That Playwright plugin. So you need to search here the Playwright, and you need to add that plugin. And you need to add that particular plugin. Now, if you go and if you add that particular plugin, right, it will be added to your VS Code. Now, what you need to do here is you need to go to your Explorer. You need to click on to this particular top search. And you need to simply go and click on your second option, show and run commands. And you need to search here for Playwright. So when you search, right, you will get this test install Playwright. You just click on it so that you will get these options. You need to just click on this, so it will select all the options. You need to click on OK. So it will automatically download all the required folders and as well as files under to this particular project 3. And it makes that project 3 as your Playwright project. It actually makes your project 3 as your Playwright project. Now, if you see, right, as I said you, whenever you're installing your Playwright project, right, whenever you're installing Playwright, right, you will get these folders. So first folder is GitHub. See, this folder is for if I want to run my test cases in GitHub. I need this configuration where I actually mentioned that configuration in .yml file. In .yml file. So if I need to make it simple, right, let me just explain you in detail. So for example, I have see normally, right, this is nothing but my local machine. And this is nothing but my remote source code repository where I want to store my code. Now, whenever I am trying to in my local machine, right? If you will create a project where you are actually writing your Playwright code. And if I want to push this particular code to my repository, so this is nothing but what we are actually calling it as a source code repository. So the source code repository is nothing but we are calling the GitHub is nothing but the source of repository. So this is nothing but your local machine. This is nothing but your local machine where you are going to write your Playwright code. Where you are going to write your Playwright project code. Now, whenever I want to store this or push this code to my remote repository, and if I want, means whenever I'm pushing this code to remote repository, right? If I want to run them in my GitHub using GitHub Actions. So we have a concept. We can also run our test cases under to GitHub using GitHub Actions. So if I want to run my test cases under to this particular GitHub Actions, then I need this configuration under to your Playwright. What is this configuration and why do we write this and how do we run it? We will see. when we are discussing on the Git and GitHub actions. As of now, right, you need to just remember, whenever you're installing Playwright, you will also automatically get a file with name called playwright.yml, which has a configuration to run your Playwright test in your GitHub actions. And then the second folder is nothing but node modules. So it is like how you see reference libraries under to Maven, right? Whatever the jar files, the dependencies, or whatever the libraries that you are using to run your Maven project, everything will be added under to your reference library of your Maven project. In the same way, if you want to run your Playwright test using Node.js, we need all these libraries. So all the libraries that are required to run your Playwright test will be downloaded under to this particular node modules. Whatever the libraries that are required to run your test cases, right, that will be downloaded under to this particular node modules. Okay. So if you see here, right, this is your, it's like a library. Means you are downloading your Node.js libraries under to this particular node modules. So if you want, right, you can reuse those methods as part of your script. Whatever that you will understand. Now the third folder is nothing but a test folder, where it will actually create a sample folder with a name called test, and it actually creates a test file, which shows that there are around 2 sample tests which has been added. So how do we identify this test? Means if you see a block with a name called a test, this indicates it is a test case. See, in a JUnit or TestNG, right, if you see any method with @test annotation, it indicates it is a test case, right? In the same way, whenever you see a test block, from here that block will start and till here it will end. So if you see any test block, this indicates it is a test case. Okay, so here, right, I have 2 tests. This is one test, and this is one other test which you have it. This is your first test, and this is your second test. That what we have it. Is this part clear? And now the next one. Here is, it will also give you a test example folder where it will show you some examples that how you can use different methods of your Playwright to perform actions. Okay, as of now, it is not required. If you want, you can delete it, or else you can put that as a backup. It is not required to go through this particular file. It is not required that you need to go through this particular file. Okay, now the next one here is, you will have git ignore. As I said, you right, if I need to ignore any files before pushing my code to GitHub, I can add those folders path here. So any files that you are creating under to this particular folders, right, it does not consider it as a change for your project, and it does not push, it does not consider those files. It means it does not track the changes that what you do as part of that particular file. Is this part clear? And then, see, anyway, you'll understand that in more detail once we start with Git. But as of now, it is like if I want to ignore some files which I don't want to push to my remote repository, I need to give those folder paths. So any files that are created under to node modules folder, any files that are created under to test results folder, any files that are created under to Playwright report folder, any files that are created under to these folders will be not considered and will be tracked by your Git repository. And then you will see a file called package.lock.json. It is nothing but the same file which is in a locked mode. And if you see, right, package.json, if you are going to create any node project, any Node.js project, how you see pom.xml file for Maven project, in the same way, if you are creating any node project, you will defaultly get this particular file. Package.json, not only for your Playwright. If you are creating any node project, And it is like this file helps you to add dependencies or libraries which are required to run that particular project. So if you see here, right, it is like so if you see here, right, it was like so if you see here, right, it was like what means any dependencies or any libraries that are required. If I say dependencies means those are libraries. So any libraries or dependencies that are required to run your Node project, Node.js project, then you will see this package.json. And Playwright, right, it is a Node project, right? It is Node.js project where Playwright is a library which is developed using JS. Okay, so you will see package.json. And Playwright config.js, this file is very, very important file where you will see all the configurations that are set to this particular file. Where you will see all the configurations are set under to this particular file. Where you are going to see all the configurations are set to this particular file. And this hierarchy is very, very important. They may ask you why you will get GitHub, because here you will get configurations which helps us to run your Playwright test in GitHub Actions. And this is your modules. It means it is going to download all the required Node.js jar files or libraries under to that particular folder. Okay, under to that particular folder. And then right, it is like, and then the next one is like test folder. Where we actually write our test cases, where we actually maintain our Playwright tests. And the next one is like a test example folder, where we are actually going to write, where it actually gives a file with some default examples. So you can see here and you can list out what are the list of methods through which you can perform actions under to your Playwright. And git ignore is a file which actually ignores ignores the tracking of the files which are getting changed under to this particular folder. And package.log.json is same as your package.json. This file helps you to add all the dependencies to your project. And if you are creating a node project, right, you will automatically get this particular package.json created. It is like pom.xml file in your Maven project. It is like pom.xml file in your Maven project. And if you see here, right, the playwright.config.js. Okay, playwright.config.js. If you see here, right, this file is like where you actually maintain your configurations of your Playwright. Where you actually maintain configurations of your Playwright. So these are nothing but this is nothing but the file structure that what you will get whenever you are going to install Playwright under to your project. Okay. So someone has raised their hand. Any question? Please ask me in your chat window, or you can unmute and you can ask me.
Yeah, Suman. So here under the projects folder, we have GitHub workflows, and under it we have playwright.yml file, right? So it will come automatically when we import the Node.js libraries. This Playwright when
see, whatever the files that you see here, right? All these files are automatically created when you are trying to install your Playwright. Till now, I have not created any file here. Is this part clear? So, for example, if I go to a new folder and let us say I had created a new blank folder with a name called project 4, and I'm opening this particular folder in your VS Code. So this folder does not have any files. Now, if I want to install, right, I need to go here and I need to click on show and run commands, and I need to click on this test install Playwright. I need to select this, and if I click on OK, right, it will automatically download all the required files that what you are seeing, like whatever that you see under to GitHub Actions, package.json, Playwright config.js, node modules, tests, test examples, git ignore, all these files will automatically get as part of your Playwright project. There is nothing that what we are doing as part of this particular project. Till now, right, I have not changed any files. When you're installing it, right, you will defaultly get this particular hierarchy. Any other questions? Any other question?
Yeah. So in Maven project, usually test data and if any evidences are there, it will be stored somewhere, right? In the project structure only, where it will be tracked
See,
here.
the same way that whenever you are going to store your any test data or project relevant artifacts, right? You will actually it will be automatically stored. Means if it is reports, right? It will automatically stored under the target folder of your Maven. Right, but here, right, you will get a folder with name called test reports. Whenever you're running it, right, your test reports, whatever the report that has been generated, right, it will be stored under to that specific folder. And the test data, right?
Okay.
Yeah, please.
No. I said okay. Yeah, you can go ahead, sir.
Okay, so it is like test data means, but test data means if you are using any data, right, you need to create that particular placeholder. See, here, right, if I need to make you to understand as a layman, right, this is the default structure, what you will get into Playwright. Now, based upon your requirement, you will extend this to different folders. So, for example, I need to write utils, then I will create a folder with name called utils. I need to maintain test data, then I will create a folder with name called test data. Okay, and again, I want to actually write pages where I am going to maintain page object model. I will create that particular folder under to my project. So based upon your requirement, right, you can create any number of folders under to this particular project, and you can create any number of files where you actually maintain data, any other supportive artifacts to run your test case. But initially, right, when you're creating it for the first time, right, you will not get these like pages, test data, folders, and as well as you will not see these utilities because this is the folder which I have created. Normally, right, this is the default folders, and as well as these are the default files that what you defaultly get when you install your Playwright.
Yeah, got it. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay, so if you see here, right, see anyway, we'll get into that lines as well because see, if I say framework means it contains some header, it contains certain hierarchy where you define multiple components like utilities, test data, test reports, pages. So you will define a structure for it. That structure, right, we will see. It's like a basic, right? As of now, we have just done the installation of your Playwright, and it actually gives you this default files and as well as folders. Now, as of now, right, first we need to see on this particular test folder. So whenever I'm installing it, right, it will create a file with name called example spec.js, and it has added two test cases. This is one test case and this is another test case. As you see in other language, right? See, for example, if you're writing a test case in TestNG, or if you're writing a test case in JUnit, you will write a method and it will be annotated with @test. You will write a method and that method will be annotated with @test. So whenever you are going to write a method and if it has been annotated with @test, right, it indicates that it is a test case. In the same way, whenever you are going to write some Playwright test, if you see a test block like this, this indicates it is a test case. So this is one test case and this is another test case. So in this particular file, right, you have two test cases. In this particular file, right, you have two test cases. Now you need to understand. Now let us say these are the two test cases that I have, right? Now these are the two test cases that I have under to my project. Okay, now under to my project. Now very simple. After doing this setup, right, first step is you need to check whether you are able to run those cases or not. So whenever I want to run my test cases, right, under to Playwright. Okay, now whenever I want to run my test cases under to your Playwright. So what you need to do here is you need to use a command called npx playwright and test. So it will actually run your test cases. For example, if I want to check the current version of your Playwright, so I have installed Playwright, but I want to check what is the version of your Playwright. So you can simply type here ---- version. So it will give you your Playwright version. It will give you the Playwright version which is installed under to that particular project. Or else the second way that you need to understand here is You also have a file with name called package.json. If you go to that particular file and if you scroll down, right, you can see your Playwright version 1.54.1. It means Playwright is a Node.js library. If I want to add that to my Node project, I need to make sure that is added as a dependency to this package.json file. That how you add dependency to your pom.xml file, right? You will go to Maven repository and you will search for that dependencies and you will copy that XML file and add that XML file, right? In the same way, if you want to add any Node.js dependencies, that should be added under to this particular package.json. So it will automatically download that library and it will be added to that particular project. So you are able to use methods or functions which are available under to that particular project, So package.json, from here you can see your Playwright version, or else you can simply type a command in your terminal, like npx playwright --- version. This is one way to check the version of your Playwright. Now, second step here is, if I want to run my test cases, the command is the same, npx playwright, instead of version, right, you need to use a test and press enter. See, another important thing here is this test does not represent this folder. This complete npx playwright is a command. If you run this, right, it will automatically it will run the test cases that are written under to this particular project. So how do we run the test cases that are written under to this particular project? So if you see, right, under to playwright config.js, if you click on playwright config.js, if you scroll down, right, you will see a folder with name called, you will see a key and value pair with name called test directory. And here, right, you mentioned /tests. This dot indicates current directory. This dot indicates current directory in which you have, right, dot indicates this folder, which is nothing but a project. Under to that particular project folder, right, you see a folder with a name called tests. It means whenever I'm going to run this particular command, npx playwright test, you are telling your Playwright script to run all the test cases which are written under to this particular folder. So if you see here, right, now what happens if I am running this npx playwright test? It is actually going and checking this particular folder, and it is actually considering all the test cases which are under to that particular folder, and it is running it. So if you see, right, normally whenever you run this command, right, it is going to run your Playwright test in all the three browsers in which it supports. So if you see, right, Playwright supports Chromium, WebKit, and Firefox. So when you're installing your Playwright, right, it will defaultly download these browsers as well. So whenever you're running this particular npx playwright test, it is going to run these two test cases which are available under to test folder in all those three browsers. So two test cases into three browsers. So total test cases are 6. So it is executing 6 test cases. It is actually executing 6 test cases. So to understand, right, better, what you need to do here is you need to go to playwright config. And here, right, you will have an option called fully parallel is equal to true. So first comment it. Press control /, it will automatically comment it. And so / is nothing but comment. How you do it in Java, right? It is like single line comment. In the same way, if you use this /, it will comment your, it is going to comment that particular line. Now, if you run it, right, the cases will be executed in a sequence. So if you see, right, first it is executing these three in sequence, and then it is executing the rest all in a sequence. It is not executing them in parallel. But for example, when I'm running this command, right, it is actually executing in headless mode. Now, if I want to execute that in a headed mode, where I want to see my browser, I need to write -- headed. So if you see here, right, now it is going to execute those test cases in headed mode. See, it is executing one by one and on different browsers, because it is executing in all these three browsers. One is Firefox, Chromium, and as well as WebKit, So if you see, right, it has executed. It started executing in all these three browsers. Now, if you see, right, you may get one doubt. So how it is executing in all these three browsers? Because if you scroll down under to your Playwright config.js, right, if you see all these three browsers has been configured. So whenever I'm going to run any test, right, it is going to run on all these three browsers which are configured here. For example, if I comment this WebKit, okay, if I comment this particular WebKit, then what happens? If I run right, it will run only on two browsers. It will run only on two browsers. For example, if I want to defaultly make it to run it only on, if I want to defaultly make it to run it only on Chrome browser, then what you can do here is you can comment Firefox as well. So it will defaultly execute it on Chrome browser only. So if you see, right, there are two test cases which are getting executed only on Chrome browser. So first it has opened and second it has opened on Chrome browser. Okay. So these browsers, right, you can also configure it from your playwright.config.js. Or else, if you don't want to comment them, for example, I don't want to comment them, you can uncomment them. And if you want to pass this as a parameter from your command prompt when you're executing it, for example, I want to run it only on one browser. So I need to use project and I should say Chromium. So it will execute only on Chromium browser. It will execute only on Chromium browser. If you want to execute this test case on Firefox, then instead of Chromium, you need to write here Firefox. Then it will be executed only on Firefox browser. Then it will be executed only on Firefox browser. Okay, and then if you see here right now, if I want to execute that on WebKit, which is nothing but Safari, so I need to write WebKit here. So it will be executed on WebKit. So if I want to execute only on a specific browser, you can pass it as -- project and you can give that a browser name. Browser name. These two are very important. If you don't give these two right, what happens? It is going to execute in headless mode on all the three browsers. On all the three browsers. So total 6 test cases because there are two test cases which are executing on three browsers. So 3 into 2. So total are 6 test cases. So totally it is executing 6 test cases. So this is about your basic setup. I mean, once you're done with your setup, right, you need to run and you need to check whether you're able to run your test case and whether you're able to run your test case in headed mode. Whether you're able to run your test case on a specific browser by selecting it using -project. Using -project. Okay, so this is your first part. Now, once you have done with this, right, now the second part is like, now, see, any number of test cases I can create here. Now, if you see here, right, I can create any number of test cases here. I can create any number of test cases here. I can create any number of test cases under to this particular test folder. For example, let us say I want to create another test file. I am copying this and I am pasting here, and I want to rename this particular file. As don't remove spec.js. Any test case should have extension called spec.js, and I'm creating a name called sample1.spec.js. Now, if you see, right, in sample one, right, what I have done here is I'm placing only one test. I have removed another test. Now, if I want to run only this particular file which has the test cases, now you can run like this. I can simply say npx playwright test. And if I want to run it in headed mode, this option is I need this -- headed mode so I can see the browser. And if I want to run it only on Chrome, I need to give project and I need to give Chromium. And here, right, after test, here, right, I can give that file name as sample1. So npx playwright test will help you to run all that, will help you to run the test. And in that test, right, I want to run only the file which has a name called sample1. And that should be executed in headed mode. And it should execute it on Chromium browser. It should execute it on Chromium browser. Now, if you run it right, what happens? It is executing only sample1 file. It is executing only sample1 file. Okay, this is one way. You can give file name and you can execute it. For example, if I want to execute example, then what I need to do? I need to give that particular file name, example. So if you see, right, it is actually executing the two test cases which are present under to that particular example. If I want to run a sample one file, then I need to give here that particular file name, like a sample one. It will execute test cases from that particular file. It is going to execute test cases from that particular file. And the second, and this is one way to run it. If you want to run any tests which are present in that particular file. Or else, the second way is you can also give your complete file path. For example, if you see, right, sample one, right, so if I want to run this, right, I can simply say ./sample, ./sample. What now? I can remove this. Let me remove this. I can simply say SAM. I don't know why it is not working. Let me close it. I need to write npx. I need to write npx playwright WRIGHT playwright test ./sample. Okay, or else you can simply say I want to run a sample. Where I have this, I need to write a ./. Okay, and I need to go to test folder. Okay, under to this particular folder. I need to run under to test folder. So I need to write yes. And then in this particular folder, right, I want to run sample spec.js. You can give complete path of that particular file to execute that particular test case. Error, no test has been found. Error, it is showing that no test has been found. Okay, or else you can give that file name. For example, instead of giving that path, right, remove this and give that particular file name. It will run the test cases which are present under to that particular file. It will run the test cases which are present under to that particular file. Okay, so why it is showing 3 means because I am adding it on for every browser, right? So if I don't want to run it on 3 browsers, then I need to give it as Chromium so that it will run only on one browser, so it will execute only one test. So how do we give? You can also give your file name, complete file name with the spec.js, which actually helps you to run that particular which actually helps you to run all the test cases present under to that particular file. Under to that particular file. Now the next perspective. For example, if I want to run all the test cases which are present under 2 different folders. Which are present under 2 different directories. Okay, or else if I want to run multiple files, let us say I want to run this file and as well as this file as well. Now, how do I run it? You can simply say that you want to run, right? So what you need to do here is you need to give the folder path like a test/sample1, and as well as you should also write a test/ and you should also write example.spec.js. Example.spec.js. So if you run it right, it is going to run all the test cases which are present under to those respective folders. So if you see here, right, now what I need to do here is I can simply, or else if I want to run both the files, right, it is not required to give individual file names as well. You can simply say folder name as tests. So I can simply say ./tests. It will run all the test cases which are present under to that particular folder. So for example, now I am just copying the sample and again I am creating another. Now here, right, the total number of test cases are like I have around 5 test cases. Now if I want to run all the test cases which are present under to that particular test folder, it will automatically pick all the 5 test cases. It is like under to sample 2, you have only 1 test case. Under to sample 1, you have only 1 test case. Under to example, you have 2 test cases. So total 4 got executed. Or else, for example, if you see here, right, I had given this particular test name as test33. But now see, whenever you see any particular test case, right, the first part indicates the test case name. Here, right, the test name has a title. Here the test case name is get to started link. Or else if you see right here, the test case name is test 33. If I want to run only this particular test case, then what you can do here is you can simply use an option called -G, and you need to give your test name. So it will run only that particular test. So how do you check whether only that particular test got executed? Open this report. If you run this command, right, it will open report in your browser. So it will actually open report in your browser like this. If you see here, right, this is the test case that got executed, and the test case name is the test 33. And the test case name is test 33. And as I said, right, whenever you are going to run your test cases, if you click on this button refresh, right, you can also see a folder with a name called test results, and you will also see a folder with a name called Playwright report, where you will see a reporting artifact. So this is the file where it actually generated that report, HTML report, and this is like the last test results which is provided in a JSON format. The result that is provided in a JSON format. So if you go to your playwright.config, if you scroll a little bit up, so if you see right here, we have reporter. And I'm asking that I should get a report in HTML format. So it is actually generating report in HTML format. For example, if I don't give here HTML, it does not generate HTML report when you're executing it. So we will see that we have a concept called, we have different types of reports where we will see that how you are able to generate different reports. As of now, right, how you are getting HTML report means that was configured in your Playwright config, where you have an option called reporter, where I mentioned it as HTML. So it is actually generating HTML report. So anyway, that option, right, we'll see. As of now, it is not required. Just we are trying to understand when you're going to run your test case, right, how do you run it? Or if I want to run a test case using a specific file name, or if I want to run a test case using that complete file name, or else if I want to run any specific all the tests which are present under that particular folder, or if I want to run any specific test has this test case name, then I need to use -G. Okay, -G. Now what I am doing here is, if you go to sample 2, now let us say I am removing, what I am doing here is, here, right, I am simply saying that I want to validate, I want to make sure that it is failing. So I am simply writing expect, and I am simply saying that expect 1 to be 1. It means if both are 1, it will pass. For example, I am changing this 1 to 2. I am comparing 1 with 2. Then it should fail. Means it is like how you are going to compare, right? 1 equal to 2, right? So if I want to compare it using Playwright validation methods, so this is how that we do. Means it is saying that I am expecting 1 and I am getting 2. So both are not equal, right? So it will fail this particular test case. So if I want to run this particular test case, right, what I am doing is I am simply giving a name as failed, because I want to run only this particular test. So how do we run it? When you're running it, right, you need to run here -G, and you should say here as failed. So it will run only that particular failed test case. So it is failing. So if you see, right, whenever it is failing, right, it will automatically generate a report like this. It is showing that you are checking expected value is 2 and you are checking with 1. Both are not equal, so it is showing it as a failure. If you see, right, that expected got failed and it is showing it as a failure in your report. So now if I want to rerun only this particular failed test case, if I want to, what it means, if I want to run only the test that got failed in my last run. Okay, last run. Then only one test case got failed, right? This is what the test case that got failed. If I want to run, if I want to rerun only the failed test case, or else let us do an example. Let me run all the test cases which are present under to this particular folder /tests. It is executing all the test cases. There are 4 test cases, and it is executing. And in that right, one got failed. So in that right, one got failed. So whenever it got failed, right, it will automatically open a report, and it is showing that this failed test case got failed and 3 got passed. Now I want to re-execute only this particular failed test case. Then what I need to do here is I have an option called npx playwright, and you need to use an option called -, last failed. So it will rerun only the last failed test case. So last failed test case is only failed test case. So it has executed only the last failed test case. So it means, see, the logic is very simple. It is very simple. Let us say you have around 10 test cases. You executed it. In that 2 got failed. Now if I want to rerun only that particular 2, then we need to use this command -last failed. -last failed to rerun only failed test case. To rerun only failed test case. Okay. So this is about your how to run your Playwright test. Means as of now, right, we have not touched anything with respect to code. But now we have done only our execution on default test that is getting displayed in your Playwright. Means this test you defaultly got when you are installing it. Now I have not written any code. I just want to show you that how you can run your test cases. So if I want to run, right, so you need to remember these options. So what are those options? So if I want to run Playwright tests, so first one is I need to use npx playwright test. This is going to run all the test cases that are present under to your test directory. Now if I run npx playwright and test, and if I use -, headed, it is going to run by opening a real browser, not in headed mode. If I run npx playwright test, and if I want to run only on a specific browser, then I need to give option called -, project, and I need to specify a browser name. And if I want to run only the test cases which are present in a specific file, let us say that file has a word called sample, then I can use this, this sample is nothing but, I'm writing here, it is nothing but part of that file name, part of that particular file name. It is nothing but part of that particular file name. Or else, if you want to run your test cases like npx playwright, and if you want to run complete test cases which are present to any specific folder, that folder name you need to give it. It will run all the test cases which are present under to that particular folder. And if I want to run, if I want to run any test, see, whenever you open any specific test file, right, you will have test case, right? This is your test case. Now, if you want to run based upon the particular name given to that particular test, then what I need to do here is I need to use an option called -g, and you need to give your test name. You need to give -g, and then you need to give your test name. So it will run that particular test. So it is going to run that particular test. It is going to run that particular test. So this is how that you need to understand that how you are able to trigger your Playwright test. Now, for example, when you're running it, if any test got failed, if I want to rerun only the failed test case, then I need to use the last -failed. It will rerun only the failed test case. If I want to run it in headed mode, then I need to use headed. If I want to run it only on Chrome browser, then I need to give Chromium. So it is like based upon your requirement, right? You can customize your execution. You can customize your execution command. So how do we run it? So these are like different ways that how you can run your test in your under to your Playwright project. Under to your Playwright project. Under to your Playwright project. Now the next one. Now the next one here is now how to create a test. Now you need to understand how to create a test. How do we create a test in a Playwright? How do we create a test? How to create a test in a Playwright? How do we create a test in a Playwright? So first thing, right? Whenever you are going to create any Playwright test, that should have extension called spec.js. That should have extension called spec.js. Now what I am doing is I am going to my VS Code. Now let us say I want to create a test. I need to click on plus symbol. And I can simply say sample2.spec.js. But if you already have sample2, right? Create with sample3.spec.js. This is nothing but a file. Whenever you are creating any file with name called spec.js, it indicates it is a test file. It is a test file. Now under to this, right? If I want to write any test, you need to write that with a test block like this. But you need to write like this. This indicates a test block. Means it indicates that how you see in your JUnit, right? That at the rate of test indicates it is a test case. At the rate of test indicates it is a test case. In the same way, right? In the same way, right? How you are going to define a test. It means you need to write a test block like this. This indicates it is a test case. But if I want to use this test, what I need to do here is first you need to write import. So I need to import. What I need to import? I need to import test and as well as expect. See here, if I'm writing only test, right? It means I need to only import test. It is not required to import expect. It is not required to import expect. It is not required to import expect. But I need to import this test from Playwright/test module. So if I want to use this test, right, then only I'm able to create a test case. So now for this test, right, we need to pass two parameters. One is nothing but the test name. What I mean to say is here I can give the test name. Let us say I'm giving test name as test name 1. Okay, and then the second parameter is nothing but I need to pass a function. I need to pass a function. In JavaScript, right, we have multiple ways to create a function. One way is you can say function and you can say some name and you can give open and close curly brace. You can give open and close curly brace. Or else the second way is like if I don't want to give any name, I can write like this. Okay. Or else the third way is I don't want to give any name for it. Then I can write like this. This is called as anonymous function. This is called as anonymous function. Means I am creating a function which does not have any name. I am creating a function which does not have any name. So whenever you are going to create an anonymous function, right, you need to make sure that you are creating it as an arrow. You need to create that as an arrow function. So this is nothing but what we are actually calling it as arrow function. What we are actually calling it as arrow function. We are actually calling it as arrow function. So this is nothing but your arrow function. Okay, arrow function means whatever the code, right, you can write under to this. Under to this open, close and curly brace. Okay. So it's very simple. So first, let me just tell you. Just I'm creating a folder under to this particular project, and that particular folder name is I'm writing it as examples. I'm simply writing it as JS examples. Now under to this particular folder, I'm dragging that out to that particular test folder. So I'll get that folder under to my project. Now here, right, I'm creating a file with name called sample1.js. Whenever you are going to create any JavaScript file, you need to create that file with extension called .js. Like sample1.js, sample2.js, sample3.js, sample4.js. So that is how that you create that is how that you actually create a file. That is how that we actually create a file. Now, under this, right, see, normally whenever I'm going to create a function in JavaScript, right, we actually write a function like this. We actually write a function like this. What it means, see, this is nothing but your function name. This is nothing but your function name. And this indicates it is a function. You need to write open and close circle brace. And this indicates it is an open curly brace and curly brace where you're going to write. Here you can write some code. Here you can write some code. This is one way to create a function. Or else you can also create a function without giving this name as well. You can directly write a function like this, and you can simply say x is equal to. Okay. Or else without this, right, I can also create a function without this as well. I need to write an arrow symbol and I can create a function like this as well. So here, right, I am not giving any name to this particular function. So this function is called as anonymous function. And whenever I'm going to execute this function, right, it actually executes the code that is written inside to this particular open and close circle brace. So please don't confuse. Anyway, we will see that basics in JavaScript. But as of now, right, you need to understand whatever that you're writing here, right? Whatever that you're writing here as part of that particular test. So first parameter is nothing but your test name. And the second parameter is nothing but anonymous function. Anonymous function means a function which does not have any name. A function which does not have any name, and I am able to anonymously execute I want to execute that function anonymously. Such functions are called as anonymous functions. So if you see, right, normally if you see this part, right, from open call, circle brace, arrow, and from this curly brace, right, this part, right, that is called as anonymous function. And if you are representing that with an arrow, right, you can also call it as an arrow function. Okay, some people call it as an arrow function. But anyway, if you see any function without a name and if I want to anonymously execute it, right, then I can create like this. So whenever you're going to create a test in Playwright, that Playwright test will have two parameters. One is the test name and second one is nothing but the anonymous function. And if you're writing any code, say normally, right, in Java, how you have system.out.println, and in Python, how you have print. In the same way, right, if I write console.log, this is like print statement in your JavaScript. If I want to run this particular test, right, how do I run it? So very simple. What is that particular file name? It is sample3. So if I want to run it, how do I run it? I need to write npx playwright test, and what is that file name? It is nothing but sample3. So it will execute that particular test. It is defaultly picking 3 browsers, so it is executing the same test for 3 times and it is printing the same, like test1, test1, test1. If I want to execute that only on a single browser, then what you can do here is, one way is you can directly go to your playwright config.js and you can comment the 2 browsers that are configured here. And now if you run it, right, whatever the test that you run, right, it will be executed defaultly only on Chrome browser. So it has executed only one test and it is printing test name 1, which I am printing as part of my console. Now let us say I am adding like this. Now again let me run it. So it will actually print that on your console. It is like system.out.println. So how you write in your Java system.out.println, right? In the same way, if I want to print some value on my console, I need to use this console.log. I need to use this console.log. Now, right? See, now I want to, right, you need to understand a little bit on Playwright. So under to Playwright, right, you need to remember this hierarchy. So why you need to remember that hierarchy, I'll tell you. So, but your Playwright test will be indicated with a block called test block. And this has 2 parameters. Like I need to pass parameter 1 and I need to pass parameter 2, where parameter 1 indicates the test name and where the parameter 2 indicates an anonymous function. So if you are creating any function like this, right, where you're going to write your code, this is called as anonymous function. This is called as anonymous function. Now you need to understand, if I need to run my Playwright test, first you need to understand what is a browser, what is a context, and what is a page under to your Playwright. Now under to your Playwright. Now first step is you need to understand what is a browser, and what do you mean by context, and what do you mean by page in your Playwright. So these three are very important. So you will see three terms whenever you are writing your Playwright test, right? You will actually go through these three terminologies. One is browser, and the second one is context, and the third one is page. So browser represents the full Chrome browser or Firefox browser or WebKit browser. The instance that was created for that particular browser was represented by browser. In the same way in Selenium, right, if I want to launch Chrome browser, right, I will write driver is equal to new of Chrome driver. It means you are creating that driver as an instance for that particular browser. In the same way, right, the instance that has been created for your browser is nothing but a browser. And each browser will have different browser profiles and sessions. Okay, each browser will have different browser profile and sessions. So if I want to open my browser, like an incognito mode, using a separate session, separate cookies or local storage, and cache is also not loaded from your previous browser, then I need to create a context. It means as of now, just remember, see, whenever I want to create a browser instance, right, we need to use browser. And in that browser, right, if I want to maintain a new profile or a session, then I will use context. And in that context, right, in that particular browser, right, if I want to open any new tab, then I need page. It means very simple. So whenever you're opening any browser, right, for example, if I'm trying to open any browser, so this browser is nothing but an instance that has been created in your Playwright script. Now in this browser, right, whenever I'm opening any browser, right, this browser will have some profile or session. Means whenever you're opening it, right, it is opened in a new session. For example, if you're opening normally, right, it will actually use the cookies, the session information, and as well as the browser profile information from the existing browser. But if you're trying to open that particular browser in an incognito mode, what it does, it is like it does not hold profile and as well as session details. So this represents a context. And in this context, right, if I'm clicking on plus, this is represented as a new page. For example, each and every tab on your browser is represented as a page. So it is very simple. If I need to launch my browser, right, first I need to create a browser instance, and then I need to create a context for it. How I need to launch that particular browser? Do I need to load existing session or existing browser profile, or I need to create a new context which does not have any browser profile or session? It means, see, it's very simple. If I need to explain, right, why we need context. Let us say I want to test different users in the same browser without any interference from one tab to another tab, or without interference from one browser to another browser. Then I need to use context. It is faster than launching a whole new browser each time, right? I can also launch a new page which has a different context from the existing page that what you had opened on the same browser. So it increases, it is a little bit faster, right? So if I am opening a new browser like this, right? If I'm opening a new browser, it is actually opening a new browser. But if I'm trying to open a new context, which does not hold the information of your previous session or browser profile information, and I want to open a new browser context in the same browser, then it is a little bit faster when you compared by opening a new instance of your browser. Okay, so that is what context. See, as of now, right, I don't want you guys to confuse. It is very simple. Whenever I want to open any browser, right, browser is like I'm creating an instance for that particular browser. Context is like it is opening that particular browser in an isolated mode. It means it does not hold the session details, or it does not hold the browser profile details which the current browser is holding. And then the third one is nothing but the page. If you're opening a page, right, it indicates that it has opened a new tab on your browser. It has opened a new tab on your browser. See, these are very, very important. Why they are important, right? Now, if you starting writing code, right, then you will easily understand it. Why you are saying that these are very important, right? If you start writing code, right, then you will easily understand it. So, if I need to launch Chrome, if I need to open any browser, right? See, normally in Selenium or in any other languages, right? We actually write some steps of code to open that particular browser. For example, I'll tell you. For example, first I'll create an instance for Chrome browser. Then I will write Then I am going to open a URL, and then I am going to maximize it. You will actually write steps, right? But in the case of Playwright, right, it is not required. I'll tell you. See, normally in Playwright, right, we have a concept called fixtures. We have a concept called fixtures. Okay, we have a concept called fixtures. FIXTUAR, fixtures. Okay. So what are these fixtures? So you need to understand what are those fixtures. So in a Playwright, right, a fixture is like a helper. It is like we already have predefined some variables or some. You can simply say we already have some predefined helpers, which you can reuse it. As part of your Playwright test. Let me just explain you for example. I have some common properties or values which I can use at browser level, context level, right, or page level. If I want to use those common things or the common provided attributes or methods, I can use them using Playwright fixtures. So I'll tell you an example, then you'll understand it better. So in Playwright, right, so whenever you're going to create a test, right, it actually requires two parameters. One is the test name and second one is anonymous functions. Now, whenever you're going to create an anonymous function, right, I need to write this function. If I want to pass any parameter to that particular function, right, I can pass those parameters here. In the same way, I want to pass a parameter called fixture with name called page. So if I directly write page, right, it indicates that it is a parameter. But if you write that in open and close curly brace, right, that indicates it is a page fixture which you are using from your Playwright. And whenever you are going to create this anonymous function, right, you need to write that with a async keyword. It means I want to execute that particular function asynchronously. Now, if you write this page fixture, right, as I said, whenever you are going to run some Playwright test, right, first you need to create a browser, and then context, and then the page. But I'm directly passing this page fixture. It means it will indirectly create a browser, it will create context, and it is directly giving us a page. So using that page, now you can launch your application. So I can simply say page dot go to. You have a method called go to, where it will actually help you to launch any URL. So how you use driver dot get method to open URL, right? In the same way, in Playwright, right, you have a method called go to. You have a method called go to. Now, whenever I'm going to write such statements in Playwright, for example, I'm going to write 5 lines of code under to this particular asynchronous function. So all these 3 lines of code will be executed at a time on my application. But I need to maintain sync because these are executed asynchronously. So if I want to execute one by one, once I complete execution of one statement, then only it will start my second and third. Then every statement in Playwright should be appended with await. You need to write await keyword before to every statement that you write as part of your Playwright. As part of your Playwright. Now what happens, when it is executing this line of code, right? It will wait till that particular code got executed and it is successful. Then only it will go for second line. Then it will again execute this line and it will wait till that particular till that particular statement is successful. It means when I'm executing these 3 lines of code asynchronously, it waits till that particular line of code is succeeded. For that, right, you need to write this async and await. It means you can't write await without using async here. Or else you can't write async without using await here before to that particular statement. These two are like a set. Whenever you are going to write a function as async, every statement in that particular function should be started with await. So these are like a pair. If you write async here and if you forgot to write await, then also it will it does not maintain any synchronization and it will fail. And even though if you write here await and if you forgot to write async here, then also it does not maintain any synchronization and it will fail. And it is going to fail. So very simple. I'll tell you, means we have a concept called promises, where you will understand that why we are writing this async and await. But as of now, right, just remember, whenever you are going to create a Playwright test, you need to pass first parameter is nothing but the test name. And the second parameter is nothing but the asynchronous function and that anonymous function, and that function you are making it as async. And for that function, right, you are passing a parameter. That parameter is page fixture. This is called as a page fixture. It is like if I say fixture, right, if I need to explain you in layman terms, right, you can simply remember these are already available in Playwright. You are just reusing it by passing that as a parameter. You are just reusing that by passing as a parameter. Now, whatever that I'm passing here, right, with this, right, I'm able to access goto method and I'm able to open that particular URL and I'm able to open that particular URL. I'm able to open that particular URL. And here, right, we will actually write your Playwright code. Whatever actions that you want to write, right, you will actually write your Playwright code. What you will write, right, that we will see. But first you need to understand this test block and this test name and why you are writing this function in this particular format. Why you are writing this function in this particular format. So this is important. Now, if I want to run this particular test, what I need to do? I need to run this test name, right? How do I run it? I need to write npx playwright test -g and I need to give my test name. And I want to run, and I want to, if I run it, so it will actually run that particular test. What it is showing? It is showing that you are not able to run it because you have space for that particular test name. So whenever you have space, right, you need to give that in single quotes. Then only it will be executed. Or else it will consider that as 2 different names. So you need to give that name in single quotes if you have any spaces in that particular test name. So it has executed that particular test. It has executed that particular test. See, please don't confuse. It will take around another 1 or 2 sessions to understand that why we are writing these functions and why we are writing this async, await, and how you are going to write your code to execute your code as part of your Playwright test. It will take another one class to understand that. If you write some example, right, then you will easily understand that why it is important as part of your Playwright test. As part of your Playwright test. So in today's session, right, very simple. I have just shown you that how you are going to run your Playwright tests in different ways by using file name, complete file name, folder, or the test name, or how do you return only the last failed run. For example, last run, there are around 3 cases that got failed, and you want to execute only those 3 cases. We are going to see how you are going to run only all those 3 cases. You are going to run only all those 3 cases. And if you want to run all the test cases which are present under that particular folder, how do you run it? So all these, right, we had seen, and then I had just shown you whenever you are going to create a test case, you need to write that using a test block, where you need to give your test name, and then you need to write an anonymous function where I am going to pass page fixture, which is already provided in your Playwright. So you can use this page to access all the methods of your Playwright to perform actions. Okay, and whenever you are going to write these, right, you need to make sure that you are writing async and await. Async should be written before to that particular anonymous function to get it executed asynchronously. And await should be written for every line of code which is written inside to that particular function to maintain synchronization, or to wait till that particular promise is successful. Promise means to wait till that particular code is getting executed and it got successfully executed. That condition, it is waiting till that particular condition, till that code got successfully executed, right? That is called as a promise. That is called as a promise. That is called as a promise. Is this part clear? So this is what about in our today's session. In our next class, right, we will start writing some basic commands. Then you will understand it. And some things, right, you need to remember as of now that why you are creating a function like anonymous and why you are passing how you are passing a parameter. You just remember. I will tell you in detail once we discuss on functions in your JavaScript. It means it is too early. Even though if I explain now, right, you will be a little bit confused that how you will use that as part of your Playwright test. So first, let us say a little bit basics on your Playwright and what commands and what methods that you use to perform actions on your application. And then I will slowly migrate and then I will slowly inject that how you are going, why we are writing our code in this way as part of your JavaScript. As part of your JavaScript. So that, right, you will understand. It will take another 1 or 2 sessions to get into that, to get to that confidence that why we are writing like this and what is the reason that why we are actually need to write that test in this format and getting it executed. So any questions on today's session, team?
I have one question. As you said, here you have mentioned page, right? Like in the arrow function.
Yes.
There you said content, page, different types of differentiations, right? If I want to execute like content, means like here any different syntax is there, or how it will be? Now you directly mentioned as page, right? We are not using other one.
See, we can use,
Playwright.
for example, it again depends upon the test case that what you are executing. So for example, I need to launch a browser and then I need to open some blank context and then I need to just go to a specific URL. Then I will pass page fixture here. For example, when I'm opening context, I need to load some session details. For example, whenever I have executed some test case with respect to login, I will get to some session. I want to store those session details. And when I'm opening a new browser, right, again, I don't want to log in. I just want to load those session details into that particular page and I want to log in. Right? Then in such case, right, you should actually use a browser fixture. Because first you need to open browser and then you need to open context, and in that context you need to make sure that you're adding a session, and then you need to create for a page, and using page you need to actually open URL or perform other actions. So it depends upon the scenario that what you are doing. So in your upcoming sessions, right, you'll understand that when you use what type of fixture based upon your scenario. As of now, right, just remember, if you want to open your browser with a context and then you want to open some URL on that particular browser by considering it as a new page, we need to pass page fixture. See, here, right, when you are writing this page, right, it is mandatory that you should write this open and close curly brace. If you forgot to write this open and close curly brace, right, then it is different. It is not a page fixture. It is a parameter. If you are writing that in open and close brace means it indicates that you are using fixture from your Playwright. Is this part clear?
Yeah, that URL means like we can change that one, right? Playwright.dev, whatever we want.
Yeah, that is like sample URL. You can give any URL like google.com or gmail.com, any URL.
Okay.
It's like if you want to open any application, right? Every application will have some web address, right? Like www.google.com site or www.gmail.com or HTTPS or something, right? You can give any URL. For example, if I want to open ClearTrip site, right? If you just go here, and if I want to open ClearTrip site, right? What you will do, you will write cleartrip.com, right? Whatever that you are opening here, right? You need to copy this, and this you want to open it on your browser means you need to give here that URL. So when you're writing page.go-to means it will actually open this ClearTrip site on that particular browser, or in that particular page. See, here we say browser means, see, browser contains context. Context contains a page. On page, you're actually opening that particular URL. On page, you're actually opening that particular URL. Here, page, you can simply, in layman terms, right, you can say that a tab that you're opening in your browser, right? So you have new tab, right, which you are actually opening in your browser, right? This indicates it as a page. You guys are getting it, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Team?
Yeah, Suman, like you are writing multiple statements, right? Await statements. And we are telling that they are executing asynchronously. How they will be executing?
So if I say asynchronous, right, if you write 5 statements will be executed at a time. Okay, so for example, let us say the first statement you had written that I need to open browser. Let us say you are using a page.go-to. And then in second statement, right, you are saying that you need to go and click on Gmail link. And in third statement, right, you are saying that whether you have opened Gmail link or not. So for example, if I create that function asynchronous, right, all these 3 statements will be executed on your browser at the same point of time. So without executing your first statement, like opening that URL and clicking on Gmail, you can't validate whether you are into Gmail page. So your test will fail. So if I need to make sure that every statement is getting executed and that the promise is successful, then only it should execute the next line of code. Then it is mandatory that you should write for every line of code that what you are writing as part of function should be prefixed with the await.
Okay. So not all statements should prefix with await. Only mandatory which should be executed first only we should prefix, right?
It is a little bit confusing, your statement. Whatever the code that you write as part of this particular block, right, from open curly brace to close curly brace, any number of lines that you write here, right, all those lines should be prefixed with await.
Okay. So
not only a single line, whatever the code that you write inside that particular block, right? If you are writing here async means all those lines should be written with await as prefix.
Okay. So it is executing synchronously only, right? Step by step.
No, it is not executed asynchronously. It will execute asynchronously, but it is waiting till that particular statement is getting completed and it got succeeded. Okay. You guys are getting it, right? It is very simple. If I need to make it simple, right, let me just show you. So it is very simple. If I say, if you see, right, let us say I am executing 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 lines. If I'm executing these lines line by line, then it is synchronous. Now what I am saying here is I'm adding some weight before to each and every statement. It means if I write a weight before to every statement, right? When I'm executing it, right, this complete set will be executed only once on my application. But when it is executing, right, it will make sure that it will wait till that statement is getting executed and it got succeeded. See, there is a lot of difference. For example, if it is executing first, then it is executing second, then it is executing third, then it is executing fourth. And there is a difference when it is executing all these statements at a time asynchronously. But every statement, right, it is waiting till that statement is successful, till that statement is getting succeeded. It means till that statement is completing that promise. We say promise here. Promise means it is like a condition. Means till that particular statement is returning you true, then only it will terminate from that particular line. Then only it says that that line execution got completed. You got it right?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
See, very simple. Don't think about asynchronous and synchronous. Simply think here, right, whenever you're executing your JavaScript code, right, it will execute asynchronously. Asynchronous means if you're writing 5 lines of code, right, all these 5 lines of code will be applied on your application at the same time. It does not execute line by line. It means first line, it will execute on your application. Then second line, then third line, that is synchronous. If I say asynchronous means all these lines of code that what you had written, right, all these lines of code will be executed asynchronously on your application. But when they are executing asynchronously, right, for example, I had written some third line where I am checking for some element. It means till this particular statement got succeeded, I need to wait that this statement should be executed on our application, right? So if I write await, right, it will wait till that particular statement is returning a successful promise. It doesn't mean that it will wait till these 2 lines of code is getting executed. It will wait till this particular line of code is getting succeeded on your application.
Okay.
Is this part clear?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, if it is unsuccessful, other statements will be still executed or it will be terminated?
It will terminate. It will give you an error and it will terminate.
Okay.
See, here, right, I'll tell you. It was actually a good doubt, right? See, you may get one doubt that you are saying that it will wait. Till what time it will wait? Okay, so for that, right, we have a configuration. We have a configuration. So if you see, right, under to Playwright config, we will set a timeout here. We'll have default timeout for your Playwright is like 30 seconds. You can also set a timeout here. For example, if I give here timeout as 60 into 1000, it means the max time it will wait for 60,000 milliseconds. It means how much it is? 60 seconds. It means the max time is 1 minute. If that promise is not successful, if that condition, if the line of code is not successful within that 1 minute, right, it will give you an exception. See, normally we say exception, but in JavaScript, right, we don't have any exceptions. We say here errors. Okay, why we are categorizing them as errors and how you need to handle it, right? That we will see. We have a concept called handling errors. There we will see that how you are able to handle it. But this is how it is. It means it will execute asynchronously, but every statement will wait till that statement is getting succeeded, which we actually call it as till it is achieving that promise. Promise means it's like a condition. It shows that that promise has different states, like it is successful, rejected, or failed, right? It has 3 statuses. So it waits till that particular promise is successful. If it is successful means then only it considers that a particular line of statement got executed on your application. Okay, so what would be the wait time means it depends upon the time that you're configuring it, the time that you have configured here. So anyway, let's see, as of now, right, I don't want you guys to confuse. Very simple. It's like if you write await, right, it will wait till that particular statement got successful. it will wait till that particular statement got successfully executed on your application. And if you write 5 lines of code, all the 5 lines of code will be executed at a time on your application. But if you write await, right, it means it will wait, even though if they are executing at a time, right, it will wait till that particular line of code got successfully executed on your application. For that, you need to write await. And you can't write only await. It should be in a pair. If you write async here, then only you need to write await. If you don't write async here, or if you write await, it will not work. Or else if you write await here and if you don't write async here, right, then also it will show you an error. See, for example, even though if you remove this, or even though if you don't write this await here, right, then it does not wait till that particular statement is getting executed and got successful on your application. So it is a mandate that every statement should be prefixed with await. See, it is await. This async and await is provided in your latest Node.js. Previously, we don't have this async and await. We use it to use callback or then mechanism to maintain this to make sure that that promise is successful. But now, right, with respect to your latest Node.js versions, right, they had provided this facility so that whatever the statements that are getting executed as part of asynchronous function, right, it is ensuring that all those statements are successfully executed and returning a successful promise. Okay, anyway, you'll understand that. Means once we get into more details, right, you'll understand that. As of now, just remember, if I need to create a test, right, you need to write a test block and it should have a test name. And whenever you're going to create a function, right, that function should have it's an anonymous function where it should have page fixture as a parameter. And it should be created as an asynchronous function. And whatever the lines of code that you write as part of that particular function, every line should be prefixed with await. Every line should be prefixed with await. Is this part clear? Or any questions? See, another important thing here is, see, these are like, it's like you are going to learn basics. It's like when someone is asking you something in an interview, right, you need to explain that. So that is the reason we are explaining these basics. In real practice, right, it is not required that we will write this complete code. We will automatically generate it using your agents. But I don't want to tell you about agents at this point of time, because if I tell you, right, you will not learn your basics. See, here, right, two ways. One way is if you're already working and if you want to implement your automation project using this Playwright, right, then the learning approach is different. If you want to learn thoroughly with the basics, and then you need to understand that how you're going to design as part of your Playwright test, right? Because you want to crack some interview. Then your learning methodology should be different. First you need to learn the basics, and then we will see that how you're going to use this AIs or agents through which you're able to speed up your design. But that part, right, we will see. First let us understand the basics, and then we will see that how you're going to use your AI or AI agents to quickly write your code as part of your automation script. Okay. It takes some time. First we need to complete this basics part, that what type of actions, what methods, how you are going to interact with your application using these different types of methods. Then we will see them as part of your script design, where you are going to use these UI tools. Okay. Any other questions, team? Or else if you are good, right, we can wind up. We are already running more than 20 minutes in delay. Any other questions? See, please feel free. So please practice in the same way that how I am showing you as a small code snippets, right? If you write it right, then if you have any questions, right, please feel free to raise them in our next session before when we join. So first we will clear our queries and then we will get back to our actual concept and we will drive it. Okay, there is no hurry in it. We will actually see first the questions when if you have any questions or queries when you're practicing it, then we will actually start with our the new concepts of that particular session. So you guys are good, right? If you guys are good, right, then I think so we can wind up for today. Tomorrow also same time at 9 p.m. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.